Greetings, all you miraculous people out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with the Season 3 episode of Miraculous Ladybug titled Feast. Now, we are really starting to get down to the wire of the last few episodes of Season 3, and I am oh so ready for Season 4, but a lot of the episodes we have left look to be fairly fun. But in the here and now, we pick up at the Louvre, where Nadia Shamak is doing a report on a recent find by Alex's dad somewhere in the Tibetan mountains that he's brought back for display. And with that, Alia is also here doing a little bit of investigating on Ladybug. Now, it's not Ladybug specifically, but a theory that she's had that she's hoping could help identify who Hawkmoth actually is. Now, Alia is under this theory that various different mythological figures in the distant past were previous miraculous holders all throughout time. And the one thing that she signs to have in common is just these magical elements, which is kind of mocked by Alex and Marinette for the most part. Mostly because Marinette is trying to keep that on the DL, because Alia is very close to the truth. But I love this moment where Alex kind of references that, oh, maybe there's a bunny miraculous, making it very obvious this takes place before the episode time tagger. iCard in the link up above. But the one thing that really kind of proves Alia's hypothesis is that each of the figures that she showed off have this same symbol. A symbol that Marinette notices all too well, because that is the very symbol of the miraculous, and specifically, as Alia puts it, the League of Guardians. And Alex notices that this symbol is very familiar to her, as at the same moment, Natalie notices something about the exhibit that Mr. Kobito, however you pronounce Alex's last name. As the display is revealed, it is shown that the symbol for the miraculous is also on this new exhibit as well. As Natalie immediately starts to feel a little bit faint, and so she's taken home. And as Alex starts to kind of buy into a lot of what Alia is saying, it's obvious that Marinette isn't quite too sure about this and questions if Alia is going to publish this on her lady blog. Unfortunately, Alia already has done so, and when she shows it to Master Fu, he tells her not to worry too much, because while Alia is very bright, it's a lot of stuff that would have already come to light no matter what at some point. It just took somebody who with a good inclination towards the truth to kind of find it, but none of the information that Alia has put out there should clue in Hawkmoth as to Master Fu's relation to the miraculous. However, once Master Fu actually sees the exhibit at the Louvre, he starts to have almost like a panic attack, and he shows off to Marinette that creature that's not a statue is actually in fact an ancient senti monster that was sealed away years ago. But Marinette doesn't see what the problem is. She's dealt with senti monsters before, but Master Fu makes it known that this ties into his past that has only been alluded to here and there. We actually get to see Master Fu's past in full for the first time, which is something I've been really looking forward to ever since Elements of Season 2. But we see that when he was very young, he was chosen to be a guardian of the miraculous, and basically stripped away from his parents, put under very rigorous training, despite the fact that, he didn't really want this life. He just wanted to be a normal child and play with friends and be with his family. But He was put in various types of training situations, one of which was staying and watching one of the Miraculous boxes, because apparently there were a multitude of Miraculous, and not just the ones within the one box. But Master Fu was tasked with watching it for an entire day without any food or anything. And having been just so hungry and fed up with the whole situation, he decided to steal one of the Peacock Miraculous out of the box. And thus he transformed and created a sentient monster of his own in order to go and get him some food. But the combination of his frustration and his hunger created a creature with a lust for the miraculous, a hunger for the miraculous, devouring the various other miraculous within the temple. And in his panic, Master Fu actually lost the object that he used in order to create the Senti monster, namely his staff. And, in his panic, he just put back the miraculous without, doing away with the Senti monster, because he was scared and fearful. That's what kids kind of do. They don't think rationally when they're in really big trouble or really fearful of a situation. And the situation very much got out of hand as the creature began to devour the various monks within. And the last remaining monk threw him the tome, as well as had him flee with the last remaining miraculous box. And as Master Fu did his best in order to escape, he was chased down by the monster. And at the last moment, he ended up losing the tome as well as the peacock and the moth miraculous, showing that this was the moment. I always wondered how those two miraculous were lost. As this happened, hundreds of years ago, the League of Guardians was all about keeping things quiet and under wraps for centuries. But everything went completely dormant 200 years ago. And 200 years ago, around 200 years ago, is when all this went down. So for couple hundred years almost, Master Fu has just lived with this guilt and this shame because he admits that he is no master. And he had no right to judge that Marinette should even have the miraculous. And though she's done a good job, he doesn't want to endanger her like he did the monks. So he asked her to hand over the miraculous so that he can flee should Hawkmoth catch wind of that Senti monster and unleash it. But Marinette wants to help. She doesn't want to be sidelined. She wants to be there for Master Fu, no matter what. He chose her, and he should have faith in her. Meanwhile, Adrian is really kind of, worried about Natalie, but his dad tells her it'll be alright, it'll be fine. She has episodes like this from time to time. But after he leaves, Natalie notes that she sensed that was an ancient Senti monster. And she does admit that since it was created by another, much like we saw once again in the episode Time Tagger, that other creatures created by way of other miraculous holders of the same nature can't be used within that same nature. They kind of have a mind of their own because they were created by someone else. She wouldn't be able to control it, but Gabriel has a plan of his own. For when Natalie gets better, at least. Meanwhile, Adrian's feeling a little bit down because the episodes that Natalie has been having are very similar to his mother's before she ended up going away. And he starts to feel a little bit down because it's dredging up all these past trauma. But, Plague starts playing the piano with him, and they have a nice little fun time that, is rarely seen where, Plague can be a little bit selfish, but seeing him trying to cheer up Adrian really shows that deep down Plague's always going to be a nice little guy. Meanwhile, Mayura enters into the museum late at night, unleashes the Senti monster, though it tries to go after her Miraculous, though she manages to get it under control by threatening to destroy it. And since the Senti monster is denied what it ultimately wants, those feelings. Now, that's something that really kind of caught me off guard, the feelings of a Senti monster. But we had actually seen this in the episode Ladybug, link above, where the Senti monster there actually had feelings and emotions. It seemed to be a full fleshed out character. Now, in terms of production, this episode came first, and I had a whole spiel about that episode where, it seemed very odd that anyone would think that a creature, a artificial creature, could have real emotions or anything like this. But with, Hawkmoth being able to possess the Senti monster like this, it shows that ultimately, yeah, our artificial being like this can have real feelings and emotions and a mindset of its own. So I feel like I really could have used that episode, this episode before that episode, which is a very unfortunate, but he manages to take control of the Senti monster and promises it all the Miraculous, at least after he manages to get his wish with the use of the Ladybug and Cat Miraculous. And so the creature is dubbed Feast and grows to an enormous size and starts wreaking havoc across Paris. Meanwhile, Waze is actually taking the various Miraculous away from Adrien and Ladybug, with Master Fu leaving behind a note explaining that he just does not want to risk the harm of Adrien and Marinette to this creature of his own making. He leaving behind this note and making off with it. And while Waze, isn't quite sure about Master Fu's actions, Master Fu is determined not to have them involved. And while Marinette does her best to give chase, she is cut off by the pursuing Feast. So she costumes up in order to catch up with Master Fu. And, ultimately, Hawkmoth feels that, hey, so the guardian of the Miraculous is some decrepit old guy? Really? This'll be easier than I thought. Meanwhile, as Ladybug is chasing down Feast as well as Master Fu, in comes Cat Noir full on in a banana costume, which is absolutely hilarious. Like, oh my god. But they managed to convince a bus driver to help them out, in order to try to block off Feast, but it serves as only a minor inconvenience. But seeing this, Waze tries to convince Master Fu that, hey look, even though they don't have their Miraculous, they're still heroes, first and foremost. Don't you see? You chose them for a reason, because they had this inner strength within them, this inner need to do good, to do right, as they even get the help of Roger Cop, at least momentarily. And even the ice cream guy, I think it's Andre the ice cream guy? I don't remember, but, Master Fu's just so scared and caught up in his own guilt that he just continues to ignore Waze's pleas to, stop and let them help him. But when Adrien and Marinette have no choice but to face the Senti monster as they are, Master Fu cannot stand by and let them, take on everything on his behalf. So he stands up to the Senti monster, and Hawkmoth through that ends up getting a good look at Master Fu and is all too ready to, release him from the burden of the Miraculous. But Master Fu hands back over the Miraculous to Ladybug and Cat Noir, and he ends up, being chased by the Senti monster and almost captured, only to be rescued by Ladybug and Cat Noir. And thankful for their help and feeling that he should no longer run from his problems, especially if he has allies willing to help him through, his hard struggles and his hard times. Although he does try to get in on the action, he's 200 years old. Like, dude, there's only so much you were going to be able to do, and Waze talks about of this alliance, as it might be better for him to just run off and try to hide. So Ladybug and Cat Noir, try to combat Feast, but unfortunately, he can't really find his weak spot for some reason. So Ladybug brings out her lucky charm, which ends up being a metal detector, and she questions Master Fu that, hey, you said that the source of the amok should have been in that staff, and there's only two places that staff could actually be: at the temple or inside the Senti monster. So she ties herself to Cat Noir, and I love this look that he has when he realized what she was planning. It is the most charming moment between these two in a long time, and they're always cute, but this, oh my god, my heart exploded at this scene. Like, it's so good. So they are swallowed by Feast, and Hawkmoth feels like he's won with this. Like, awesome, I got the Ladybug and Cat Miraculous, now go after the rest of them Feast, and you will have your feast in the end. So Feast goes after Master Fu. Meanwhile, Ladybug and Cat Noir are inside of Feast's body, where they see the various items they're in, although they're unable to really interact with any of them, as they exist within their own sealed state. And as Feast draws near on Master Fu, they manage to find the staff within, with Cat Noir unleashing his cataclysm, managing to destroy Feast from the inside out. And they're able to release the Akuma and Amok to be purified by Ladybug. And, on top of that, Natalie finally succumbs to overexposure to the Peacock Miraculous, which, again, I'm glad we're actually seeing a little bit more of that, because some of the episodes previously in the season, because of the way things were aired, it really started to look like the Peacock Miraculous was just like, yeah, it had a one-time effect on Natalie and that's it. But we're really seeing the repercussions from using it so much, and it really makes me wonder at what point will all of that come to a head in terms of Natalie's condition. But our heroes celebrate their victory, and Master Fu thanks them for managing to help him with this old situation, and he's very thankful. And very glad for their help. We also end up seeing that the ancient Tibetan temple that Master Fu was at has also come back as well. After 200 years, everyone within is fully restored and back to normal. So, luckily, they were isolated to begin with. So, hey, you didn't miss out on much, but that also means that various different Miraculous have now been incorporated back into the world, which makes me wonder if we'll be seeing them somewhere down the line. We also end up seeing that, everything really has been restored, because of, Marinette unleashing the ladybugs. They were able to bring everything back, which is very surreal that everything was so preserved within Feast's body, but all you see is the symbol, and updates her lady blog accordingly. And Master Fu is just so thankful. He says that he'll return to the temple one day, but he still wants to see everything through with Hawkmoth and Mayuri, which are the last two problems from the ancient past. He even talked about potentially retiring, since he's been guarding the Miraculous for so long. He says that the next guardian of the Miraculous should be Marinette, as she has shown such a strength of will and a determination to protecting the Miraculous. She has that strength of character, and he feels that she'd fully be capable of doing this job. Although he jokes about her not undergoing that same kind of rigorous training, as it has no place in the modern day, and that's what started everything down this path to begin with. Although he does ask for Marinette's help moving out, as he has to kind of go on the run because of the fact that Hawkmoth now knows his face. So he feels that he'll just move around Paris, but always be close by. I think that's what we ended up seeing in the episode Party Crasher, where Master Fu was kind of on the move for the most part, and handing out Miraculous accordingly. So I kind of like that position that he's taken. And while moving around so much will probably be a little bit strenuous on such an older gentleman, Master Fu's up to the task. He's fine with this, as he really just wants to help and be there for when they finally take down Hawkmoth. Meanwhile, Gabriel does swear that now that he knows the face of the Miraculous Guardian, it should be that much easier for him to one day find them and get all the Miraculous for himself. I am so glad we got this episode, because it was long overdue. Like, finding out what the thing that Master Fu feared was exactly, because it was obvious he carried some kind of guilt, some kind of burden with him. How did all of the other Miraculous Guardians go missing? And the question, is there more Miraculous out there other than the ones that we see in the box that Master Fu has? And the answer to that is yes, but what other powers do those other boxes contain? And will we ever end up seeing those? I kind of doubt it, unless that temple is attacked by Hawkmoth himself, but he's after the Ladybug and Cat Miraculous specifically for the wish it grants with them, the two of them in tandem. So we'll just have to wait and see where that goes from here on out. But honestly, again, just good to finally have this information out there. Good to finally have that, burning question I've had for, seasons upon seasons, ever since we were introduced to Master Fu. To finally have that answer, it's worth its weight in gold. But tell me your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. How do you feel about this answer to the background and the question of what is the past of Master Fu? Were you satisfied by it, or do you feel that it could have been a little bit better and could have been something a little bit deeper? And how do you feel about all the Guardians being fully restored after Ladybug set everything right? I mean, ultimately, everything connected to these unnatural creatures are always reset to 0 with the Miraculous Ladybug, so I feel that it makes sense. But if you have any other thoughts, feelings, or theories, feel free to put them in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. And if you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong, aside from the small coughing fit I kind of had there for a moment. But like, dislike, however you feel. And if you want to, subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another Miraculous Ladybug episode review. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I'm everywhere for better and usually for worse. Parental discretion advised. And until the next video, just remember that you can eat all you want, devour it all down. Just be ready for the consequences that may come with that hunger. Till next time, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and it's high time I went to bed. Bye-bye.